The church was dark, except for a few candles that flickered against the old stone walls. Rain beat softly on the stained glass windows as thunder rolled in the distance. Jonathan knelt at the front, his hands gripping the wooden pew, his face heavy with doubt and fear. For years, he had lived under the applause of the world, but tonight, none of that mattered. His voice cracked as he whispered into the silence, "God, what will you ask me on Judgment Day?" For a moment, there was nothing but the sound of rain. Then, a voice, calm and steady like still water, filled the empty church. "Jonathan, the questions are not what you think." His breath caught in his throat as his body stiffened. He clutched the pew tighter, his heart pounding as the weight of those words sank in. In that silence, his mind began to race. Images flashed before him, smiling faces, bright lights, countless moments where faith was spoken but never lived. He felt his chest tighten, as if the walls were closing in. Then the voice spoke again, firm yet patient. "You asked? Now listen." His breath hitched as the storm outside grew louder, thunder crashing like a drumbeat of truth. The camera pulls back slowly, the shadows stretching across the floor, and the voice echoes one last time. "These questions will decide your eternity." The voice spoke again, slow and steady, cutting through the sound of rain. "Whom did you love when no one was watching?" Jonathan's chest tightened. Images hit him like waves smiling for cameras, waving at crowds, speaking about kindness on stage, yet stepping over the homeless man outside the studio door. He remembered the quiet nights when his phone buzzed with messages he ignored, people who needed him when there were no cameras rolling. The silence in the church grew heavier, his lips trembled, but no words came out. He wanted to speak, to defend himself, but the truth pinned him down like chains. Before he could breathe, the next question fell like a hammer. "Whom did you forgive, even when they did not deserve it?" His jaw locked, and his fists curled. The memory of a friend who betrayed him flashed before his eyes, smiles that hid wounds, polite greetings, covering anger that burned for years. His heart ached as tears formed, sliding down his cheeks. He had preached grace, but clung to grudges, like lifelines. The silence stretched, and then came the third blow. "Did you speak the truth when it cost you everything?" Jonathan felt stripped bare. Every moment laid out like open pages. Times he stayed quiet to protect his name. Times he smiled and nodded when truth would have cost him applause. His throat closed. Shame wrapped around him like cold steel. Then, almost as a whisper, he said, "I thought it was about the big things." The voice answered, firm and calm, "No, Jonathan. It was always about the unseen." The storm outside roared louder, lightning flashing across the stained glass as if heaven itself was watching, and then the question that would haunt him most echoed through the silence. What if these are everyone's questions? The next question struck like thunder, but the voice was calm, almost tender. "Why did you do what you did? For them, or for me?" Jonathan's body gave way, his knees crashing against the cold floor. His hands shook as they pressed into the wood, now wet with his tears. Memories ripped through him, flashes of interviews, smiles for cameras, posts that went viral, prayers spoken louder when people were watching. His chest burned as he whispered through broken sobs, I wanted to serve you." The voice answered without anger, only truth. "No, Jonathan. You wanted them to see you serving me." Silence followed, so thick it felt alive, pressing into his soul. His sobs filled the space like a confession no one could unhear, echoing against the walls as if the church itself was listening. Then came the question that cut deepest, words sharp as glass. "When you had two paths, comfort or courage, which did you choose?" Jonathan could barely speak, his voice cracking like dry wood. Not enough times. Every word he heard sliced through him, stripping away the lies he had told himself. There was no fire, no brimstone, no roaring judgment, just questions that revealed everything, questions that no excuse could cover. He felt darkness coil around him like smoke, the weight of eternity heavy on his chest. Then, from the shadows, light began to glow through the stained glass, soft and golden, spilling across the floor like hope reaching into despair. The voice spoke again, steady and strong. "Jonathan, it is not too late. The questions begin now." His breath caught, a tremor running through his body, as the truth hit him like a second storm. Judgment Day was not far away. It started. It started now, in the choices he would make from this moment on. The storm had passed, and sunlight broke through the clouds, washing the church steps in a soft golden glow. Jonathan walked out slowly, his body still trembling, but his heart beating with a strange peace he had never known before. The streets were wet, puddles glistening like glass, and then he saw him, the same homeless man he had walked past so many times before. Without thinking, Jonathan dropped to his knees, meeting the man's tired eyes as he offered food and a warm jacket. The man's hands shook as he took them, and Jonathan felt a silent question echoed deep inside. Whom did you love when no one was watching? He had his answer now. Days turned into weeks, and the noise of social media, likes, and interviews faded like an old photograph. Jonathan stopped chasing the spotlight. He stopped caring about applause. Instead, he poured his time into what no one would ever see, helping strangers, forgiving those who hurt him, living each day as if the questions were being asked right now, and then something began to change beyond him. People started noticing not the old fame, but the quiet way he lived. They whispered, they wondered, and some began asking themselves the same questions. As the camera pans over a quiet street, at dusk, the voice returns calm and deep, echoing in the stillness. The greatest questions are not about the end, but the life you live before it. Jonathan walked with a faint smile, his breath visible in the cool air, whispering softly to himself, "Now I know what matters." The screen fades to black, and in white letters a final line appears. What will your answers be?